Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me. You know, you see me. You see me on around. Watch this video. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna subscribe. You're gonna tell your friends about it, and then they're gonna subscribe. I'm gonna become uber famous. So here comes the video. Scary. It's a scary one. That was a good one. Me when YouTuber.
Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare, the online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for the creative and curious amongst you.
Oh my god, stop.
Skillshare's a place for you to explore new and This is the last known image of 22-year-old Christine Rush, captured on June 26, 1989, as she went to withdraw some money from an ATM machine. Christine lived in Lenexa, Kansas, with her roommate, Teresa Brown. The pair were last seen at their apartment in the town's Trafalgar Square area on June 25th. The following day, Christine called up both Teresa's boss
My upper right cheek a fuzzy? It's probably Shadow. When he starts flapping around, his fuzzies get everywhere.
Tyrone, and told them that neither of them would be coming into work that day due to ill health. After making those phone calls, neither Christine nor Teresa were ever seen or heard from again. An investigation into their disappearances was quickly launched. Just 2 days later, on June 28th, a car belonging to a wanted man named Richard Grissom Jr. was discovered parked outside an apartment complex in Grandview. Inside his vehicle were...
My smoothie smells like cigarettes. The whole order did? Oh no, did the DoorDash guy, well, I assume the DoorDash guy probably smokes. Mine smells okay. Man. You'll order online, get your money back maybe? DoorDash doesn't do full refunds. They only do like a few bucks.
Items that belonged to both Christine and Teresa, such as their jewelry and credit cards, as well as a key to their apartment. A key to the apartment of another missing woman from the local area, Joan Butler, was also found inside. Grissom was quickly tracked down and arrested just over a week later on July 7th. A painter and decorator by trade, Grissom had master keys to numerous apartment buildings.
I thought you're not allowed to smoke while delivering food and items. They have that on their job application. He could have smoked, like, chat, smoke smell lasts forever. He could have, like, smoked, then got in his car and went to go get the Uber, and then his hands just smell like smoke. You know what I mean?
Throughout Lenexa. He also had a history of violence, having committed his first murder at the age of just 16.
Committing his first murder at the age of 16, and he's just walking around, just like vibing, murdering more people. What?
Though none of their bodies have ever been discovered, Grissom stood trial for the murders of Christine, Teresa, and Joan. He was found guilty in 1990 and was given 4 life sentences. He's also believed to be a prime suspect in at least 2 other slayings.
Of course.
Despite not being eligible for parole until 2095 and having nothing left to lose, Grissom has never told the police where he buried any of his victims.
His cage.
Which brings us to this picture of Christine, the last one of her ever taken, captured on a surveillance camera. At 10 PM on June 26th, she drove to an ATM in Belton, Missouri, and emptied the bank account of her roommate, Teresa. In this very moment, she was being held against her will by Grissom. Detectives believe that Teresa had already been killed by this point, and Christine herself would meet the same fate shortly after withdrawing the money for Grissom. Given the backstory, this black and white image of her face becomes extremely haunting.
Dude, we watch a lot of these videos, man. And it's insane how like murderers just like get caught. Like, you know, for example, his first murder was at 16. So I assume, you know, he got in trouble for that, right? It doesn't matter. They just, you know, he's still out there murdering. It doesn't, I don't know. That happens all the freaking time. God, dude, now I'm literally having paranoia. Okay, I don't think this smells like smoke, but I'm just freaking out that it does. I suggest you take that out of your house before your house smells like smoke. Yeah, we did. She's throwing it away.
Dale Kerstetter worked as a maintenance man and security guard at Corning Glassworks in Bradford, Pennsylvania. He was last seen at 11 p.m. on September 12th, 1987.
Oh, God.
Caught on CCTV walking with this man in a balaclava. That night, $250,000 worth of platinum piping was stolen from the plant, taken from the room that the masked man was leading Dale towards in this picture. Not long afterwards, the masked man exited the room alone, dragging with him a large black bag. Dale was never seen again, and to this day, his body has never been found. Looking at this image...
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Afterwards, the masked man exited the room alone, dragging with him a large black bag. Dale was never seen again, and to this day, his body has never been found.
Oh.
Looking at this image, it's easy to conclude that Dale looked directly into the camera as a plea for help, a way for him to communicate to whoever would see it later that his life was in danger. However, some believe that he was actually in on the whole heist from the start, and looked into the camera as a way for him to say, "Got ya." You see, moments before this image was captured, Dale was seen talking very casually with the masked man in the back area of the glassworks, and didn't appear to be in any distress. In fact, he roamed freely around the complex, and wasn't constantly supervised by the masked figure. Those who think that the pair were actually accomplices believe Dale either escaped through an unmonitored exit, or was actually double-crossed and slain by his partner in crime, probably while they were bagging up the piping. Indeed, according to the Glassworks manager, quote, "Whoever removed the platinum from the tank was extremely familiar with the plant. Everything in the plant. They knew exactly where to go. I think the fact that he did everything in front of the camera was once again just Dale Kerstetter saying to us, 'Look, hey, here I am. I'm taking your platinum, and there isn't a thing you can do about it.'"
Damn.
Dale certainly had a
Dale's
motive
a
to take
badass?
part in the heist. He was about $40,000 in debt, and had just taken a major pay cut due to cutbacks at the plant.
But why platinum pipes? You know, robbing banks? I get it. Platinum pipes? Now we're going to have a heist of platinum pipes.
That said, his family believe that his money problems were manageable, and that he would never abandon his 7 children and 2 grandchildren without so much as a goodbye phone call. What's more, when sniffer dogs were brought to the scene, they tracked Dale's scent to a glass furnace on the 2nd floor, an area where Dale's usual rounds wouldn't have taken him. So, was Dale Kerstetter caught off guard by this unidentified perp and killed during a one-man robbery?
Oh, the platinum was
then
worth a lot
placed
in the
into a black
80s?
bag,
Okay.
along with the valuable pipes, and dragged from the scene?
7 kids? Dude,
Was
again,
he
it
in
was
fact
the
in
80s.
cahoots with this masked figure, and either escaped to start a new life elsewhere, or was slain by his accomplice, and burned in the furnace, or bagged up? Was this glance at the camera braggadocio, or one last cry for help?
Braggadocio? That's a new one.
Given how long ago this happened, we'll probably never know for sure. In December 2019, 56-year-old Adrian Meneveau took his elderly mother, Felicity Loveday, on a 3-day boat trip in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay, that guy looked sus.
But this wasn't a casual and relaxed trip on the ocean that one might expect. This was a ritual. Adrian had taken his mother out to Port Phillip Bay in an attempt to rid her of bad magic and cleanse her body of evil spirits. Both mother and son practiced Buddhist mysticism, and according to a friend, Adrian himself was convinced that he was Christ reborn.
Oh, God.
Felicity had also been a worshipful master in the Co-Freemasons, an extremely secretive society that, reportedly, have very bizarre beliefs and practices. With Felicity's health on the decline, Adrian believed that the sea water would help to dissolve the evil magic within her and restore her to full health.
Are we playing D&D right now? Yeah, let's go to the salt waters. That'll restore you to full health. Give you a health potion.
As such, Adrian purchased this small boat, which he registered and insured in his sister Christina's name. He also gave his sister all of his online passwords, banking information, and his last will and testament, in which he left his entire estate to her. Christina came to wish the pair of them bon voyage on December 11th, and took this photo of them preparing to set off.
Okay, is that not suspicious?
Their 3-day trip. When they didn't return, she reported them missing on the 14th. Their capsized boat was later found floating in the bay, along with their life jackets. To this day, neither Felicity nor Adrian's bodies have ever been found. It was quickly determined that the pair of them had set off with only half a tank of fuel, far too little for 3 days on the water. So, there are obviously a number of suspicious elements to that whole narrative.
Thus?
Why would Adrian purchase a small boat for a multi-day trip on the water? The boat itself was far from suitable for a long voyage, what with there being no sleeping quarters or space to freely move around. Why did he leave everything to his sister Christina just before setting off?
Also, why would his sister Christina not be suspicious about it in the first place?
Why did Christina take this strange photo as they departed? And why wasn't she concerned about her frail mother spending 3 days and nights on the ocean? Why did the pair remove their life jackets, which they were clearly wearing in this picture?
Now this seems like a good thing to call the police
Adrian
about.
Google searched sea burial in the days before he and his mother disappeared? In response to those questions, several interesting theories have emerged online. The creepiest of which being that in this very picture, Felicity Loveday was already dead. Christina then took this photo as fake proof of life evidence to try and show that Felicity was still breathing when she and Adrian set off on their voyage. During the trip, Adrian then dumped Felicity overboard, and then ended his own life, leaving his entire estate to Christina. That, or he faked his demise, escaped in a smaller boat that he had purchased, and is now hiding out somewhere as we speak. By leaving everything to his sister, she'd be able to support him in secret, without him needing to set up his own bank account. To be clear, those are all just theories, and Christina herself has come forward and denied that her mother was already deceased in this photo, claiming—
well, of course she's going to deny everything.
—that she was just taking a nap. As it stands though, the truth behind this bizarre picture remains a mystery. Whatever the case, this is the last time that either Adrian or Felicity were ever photographed.
A game theory?
This is the iconic final image of Chinese guerrilla fighter Cheng Benhua,
Guerrilla fighter?
standing before her Imperial Japanese captors in April of 1938. A fearless and unbreakable woman, Cheng led a resistance movement against the Japanese forces in Nanking, who had just killed her fiancé a few months prior. In this moment, she was well aware that she was about to be executed, and had just been tortured and raped by several soldiers shortly before this photo was taken.
The hell?
Refusing to give her captors the satisfaction of seeing any trace of fear, she instead defiantly stared them directly in the eyes. Minutes after posing for this picture, Cheng was bayoneted to death by the very men sat laughing behind her. She was just 24 years old. Impressed by her strength of will, Koichi Yamashita, the commander of the Japanese unit, wrote her name and age on the back of this photo as not to forget her. The image finally surfaced in 1992 when a Japanese veteran who had worked with Yamashita gave it to a Chinese journalist. He had come into possession of it decades prior, and, in his old age, worked with Chinese academics to atone for his actions in World War II. The photo was widely circulated throughout China, and today, a statue of Cheng stands in Nanking, commemorating both her bravery and her spirit.
Yeah, what a badass. Holy shit.
Next up, a chilling image captured by an ATM security camera. On the night of November 1st, 2017, a 26-year-old man,
I can only imagine what happens here,
named Dylan Steve stopped at a cash machine in North Miami Beach. As Dylan was making his withdrawal, he didn't notice the hooded man in this image quickly sneaking up behind him from a dark back street. That man, later identified as 17-year-old Marcin Hill, had been lying in wait for somebody to use that Bank of America ATM. He approached Dylan with the intention of taking his money. Dressed in a Kill Batman hoodie, Marcin aimed a pistol at Dylan and demanded all of his
He's wearing a Joker hoodie, dude.
cash. Dylan dropped the $260 that he had just taken out onto the ground, and Marcin bent down to take it. As he did, Dylan lunged at Marcin and tried to disarm him, but his plan backfired. Marcin fired a shot at point-blank range into Dylan's chest before disappearing into the night. Still conscious and pumped with adrenaline, Dylan made his way over to his mother, Sandy, who was waiting for him in a van nearby and who had witnessed the entire thing. But unfortunately for Dylan, his robber had also just become his killer. After approaching his mother, Dylan collapsed to the ground and died shortly thereafter.
Wow.
It didn't take long for detectives to figure out that Marcin Hill was the one responsible for Dylan's death. The 17-year-old had a long criminal history, having first been arrested at the age of 10, and then 14 more times since.
$14 more times? What?
He was picked up just 2 days later in Lauderhill. After accepting a plea bargain, Marcin was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years behind bars, followed by 10 more years of probation. That sentence, though, has done little to satisfy Dylan's family. In his mother's words, quote, "Marcin took my life when he took my son's. He's a menace to society. He's the devil." Marcin Hill is scheduled for release on October 30th, 2042.
That's it? That's it? Wow.
He'll be 42 years old. Whether you're for it or against it, Singapore is one of a handful of highly developed countries that still makes use of capital punishment. Though it's common for prisons to offer their condemned inmates one final meal request, at Singapore's Changi prison, they actually have another, much more unorthodox practice. A final photo shoot. In the lead up to their hanging,
weird.
Inmates are permitted to dress in whatever clothes they like, and are then brought into a room and professionally photographed.
I don't like that at all.
This image is then printed out, framed, and presented as a final memento to the inmate's family, either shortly before or shortly after the sentence has been carried out. Some believe this practice to be a good thing, as it leaves the family with a final memory of their departed loved
weird.
one. Others believe it to be cruel and inhumane, saying that the photos only serve as a painful reminder of their family member's fate. It was at one of these photo shoots that this image of Nagarendram Dharmalingam was taken.
Okay, now that's a name, and he actually pronounced it right. What the heck?
His favorite clothes and a blank expression, fully aware that this would be his final ever picture. In 2010, Nagarendram had been sentenced to hang for bringing 3 teaspoons worth of heroin into the country, something he claimed he was forced to do.
You can get put on death row for heroin? What? I'm sorry? Are you kidding me? Singapore is insane. My God. All right.
Independent medical experts examined Nagarendram and concluded that he was actually severely intellectually disabled and only had an IQ of 69.
Wow.
A widespread international campaign of support for the young man followed, which even included personal appeals from Stephen Fry and Richard Branson, directed at the nation's president and prime minister, urging them to spare Nagarendram's life. Despite that, the Singaporean government refused to reduce his sentence. For 13 years, Nagarendram spent most of his days in solitary confinement. That is, until just 2 months ago, when the 34-year-old was brought out to take this photo.
Wait, why is everyone saying nice? Did someone say 69?
Thereafter, he was led out to the gallows, and, at first light, on April 27th, 2022, his life was cut short at the end of a rope.
See, chat, this is why I kind of changed my views. Oh, the IQ of 69, okay. This is why I kind of changed my views on death row and, like, the death penalty, is because situations like this, where, like, people are wrongfully put on death row. I feel like if it was better managed, or, like, I don't know. It's just like there's too many instances of people being on death row when they shouldn't be on death row, or getting killed from death row when they're innocent.
Throughout Singapore, there's actually widespread support for capital punishment. But, given Nagarendram's circumstances, many of the practice's supporters were critical of this outcome.
What are you doing? Yeah, I feel like that evidence needs to be, like, overwhelming.
This photo shows 22-year-old Canadian Danielle Kendall on a hike up the Cotopaxi volcano in the Central Highlands of Ecuador. A chemical engineering student back at the University of Calgary, Danielle was not only intelligent, but fiercely
You
athletic,
can't chew gum in
and was a
public in
medal-winning
Singapore?
member of her school's track and field team. Always one to chase adventure and challenge herself physically, Danielle joined a guided hiking group that began scaling the volcano on June 2nd, 2013. Shortly after this image was captured, a huge chunk of ice the size of a car fell from the top of the volcano. It struck Danielle as the group made their descent. She was killed on impact.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ.
Next, we have these before and after shots of Evgeny Stepanovich Kubitev, an artist, writer, and teacher from Russia's Altai region. When the Germans invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, Evgeny joined the Red Army to fight for his motherland. A chilling prospect, given the enormous losses that the Russian forces were suffering. Still, he saw it as his duty.
Freak accidents make me so mad.
Just 3 months into his service, however,
That's awful.
he was wounded and taken prisoner by the German forces. Evgeny was sent to the infamous Coral Pit, where few who were sent survived. The camp was essentially just a quarry with a few buildings scattered around, buildings which few of the inmates were allowed to enter for warmth. Most were left to survive in the elements, though there was little actual surviving going on. 90,000 POWs and civilians perished inside Coral's gates in the few years that the camp was active.
God.
As one other well-known inmate, Danilo Schmuck, put it, Coral was, quote, a pit of death with prisoners dying like flies from hunger, exposure, and epidemics. Evgeny was able to distract himself from his living nightmare by creating these haunting drawings depicting his time at Coral. When the gods learned of his artistic talent, they began making him draw portraits of them as well. They rewarded him for his work with low-quality food.
What is that right image,
Scraps,
though?
really, but it was enough to keep him alive, while most others around him perished. In 1943, Evgeny made a daring escape from Coral and rejoined the Red Army once again.
What the hell?
He fought until the end of the war in 1945 and helped to liberate others who had suffered in German camps along the way.
What a badass.
Still,
What the heck?
Soviet High Command refused to award Evgeny the Victory over Germany medal for his service, due to the fact that he had allowed himself to be captured
Oh
back in
my
1941.
God. Allowed himself to be
These
captured,
before and
dude.
after shots say it all, really. The story of Evgeny's fight for survival is written all over his gaunt and wrinkled face. A young man who aged a lifetime in just a few short years. And that vacant stare.
That's a few years difference? My God.
One can only imagine the horrors that those eyes saw during that time. Horrors that troubled him for the rest of his days. He may have survived.
How was that his fault? Dude, it's Russia, man. How dare you allowed yourself to get captured?
His innocence
Fool.
most certainly didn't. For the rest of his life, Evgeny was haunted by nightmares, but found solace within his art. He died on January 29th, 1973.
Wait.
On the night of August 31st, 1997, Diana, Princess of Wales, and her companion, Dodi Al-Fayed, departed in a limousine from the Hotel Ritz, Paris, along with their bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and their driver, Henri Paul.
Wait, do I know
Since
this
Princess
one?
Diana was such a high-profile figure in the world, she and Dodi were being hounded by paparazzi, and as they left the hotel, they were pursued by dozens of them. In an effort to escape them, Henri Paul entered Paris's Poste d'Almar tunnel, going at about 65 miles per hour. But what nobody realized was that Mr. Paul had been drinking and was feeling the effects of both the alcohol and the prescription medication he was on at the time.
Oh, God.
His reaction time and ability to control the vehicle had both been severely impaired, and those factors, combined with the speed of the vehicle and the flashes of the cameras, resulted in disaster. This is perhaps the final photo taken of Diana's vehicle before it crashed inside the tunnel, taken by a paparazzo who had chased them down and overtaken them. The picture shows a clearly startled Henri Paul behind the wheel, dazed by the flash of cameras, the wildness of the situation, and the cocktail of substances in his system. In the passenger seat sits bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones. In the rear, we can see the back of Princess Diana's head as she looks out to see if they were still being pursued. Dodi sat beside her. Seconds later, Mr. Paul lost control of the limo and swerved into a pillar. Dodi Al-Fayed and Henri Paul died on impact. Princess Diana passed away shortly after.
Dear God.
Trevor Rees-Jones was the only survivor and needed facial reconstruction surgery due to the severity of his injuries. Although the photo does show Diana mere moments before the crash, this actually wasn't the final photo of her taken alive. As she breathed her final breaths,
Fucking
the
paparazzi,
paparazzi
I know.
continued to snap photo after photo of her before the emergency services arrived. None of those photos have ever been publicly released, but they likely do still exist somewhere, in somebody's private collection.
Dude, paparazzi's the fucking worst,
In August
man.
of 1992,
Oh.
Ruby Ridge, Idaho, was
Okay.
the setting of an 11-day
We
siege
watched this video, chat. We've seen this
and
one.
shootout that resulted in the loss of 3 lives.
We've seen this
Those
video.
of U.S. Marshal Bill Deegan, 14-year-old Sammy Weaver, and Sammy's mother, Vicky Weaver, shown here cradling her 10-month-old baby moments before her demise. Her husband, Randy Weaver, had failed to appear in court on firearms charges, and he, his family, and a close friend had fled to a cabin in Ruby Ridge to lay low. The property was surrounded by law enforcement on August 21st, who, at the time, kept a low profile. However, that same day, they had a run-in with the Weaver son, Sammy, and Randy's friend, Kevin Harris. During this encounter, Sammy was shot in the back by a marshal.
Yeah, I
and
remember
Kevin
this, yeah.
killed Marshal Deegan. From there,
This
a
one's
green light was
awful.
given to take out any of the adult family members if the opportunity presented itself. After that incident,
It was
the rest of
literally
the Weaver-
like just police and other people just like spreading light. Like, I don't know why they wanted this family dead so bad. I know they were like, you know, wackos a little bit. I think they were like white supremacists or something like that, but they didn't do anything wrong. and they just like brought in like military grade vehicles and shit, and just they killed their son and stuff. I think they killed the mom too.
Went to reclaim Sammy's body and placed it inside a cabin adjacent to the one they were holding out in. From there,
wasn't it
they all
the
agreed
ATF?
not to surrender.
I don't remember. It could be.
The following day, as Randy, his daughter Sarah, and his friend Kevin went to visit Sammy's body, an FBI sniper opened fire on them, striking Randy in the back.
Yeah.
They all ran back to the cabin to take cover. The sniper fired a second shot as the group scrambled inside, striking Kevin Harris in the chest. Vicky, who was still holding her baby at the time, happened to be standing just behind the door.
No. No.
The bullet exited Kevin and fatally struck Vicky, narrowly missing the 10-month-old in her arms. Vicky and her family were by no means saints and held some very horrible opinions, but this shot was undeniably reckless, given that the marshals had taken this photo just moments prior and knew of the baby's presence. After this incident, Randy Weaver was arrested. The only thing he was found guilty of was missing his original court date, for which he served 16 months behind bars. He and his surviving relatives, in turn, filed a wrongful death suit for $200 million, related to the killing of his son and wife.
My God.
The matter was settled out of court. Randy was awarded $100,000, and his 3 daughters
That's it?
$1 million each.
That's it? It was literally just cops killing him for no reason. Like, I don't understand. That's all it was. That entire situation was just cops just wanting to kill. Now it's time to walk away. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Did you laugh or cry or maybe subscribed? I'll thank you either way. You know I will miss you. I hope you return. Tell your friend or your mother to get me more views, please.